This past Saturday was UFC 314, Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes, and I'm going to give you my top 3 takeaways from the card. There was a lot to dissect from this card. I've already done multiple post-fight videos, but you had Paddy Pimblett absolutely humiliating and dominating Michael Chandler in the co-main event. You had Yair Rodriguez outclassing Patricio Pitbull in his UFC debut. You had Silva literally bullying and choking Bryce Mitchell out cold. So there's a lot of different takeaways you could have coming out of UFC 314. I'm going to give you mine. I'm going to start off with a couple honorable mentions. Then I'm going to get into my actual list, going from 3 to 1. 1 being my biggest takeaway from UFC 314, which is a bit of a hot take. I talked about it in my post-fight. I'm going to get to it later in this video. It's a bit of a hot take. And then you know what? I'm going to throw in a little bonus takeaway at the end of the video because I'm going to make a whole nother video on this. So I don't want to break it down in depth in this video. So let's start off with the first honorable mention. And that is that Patricio Pitbull came to the UFC too late. He gets outclassed by Yair Rodriguez in the featured fight. The UFC, especially when they bring in high-level guys from other organizations, it seems like they like to throw them to the wolves immediately because if they win, the UFC can prop them up and say, look what we did for you. Look what we did for you. Bellator could never do that. PFL could never do that, which is true. But then also if they lose, the UFC can kind of say, look, these guys can't hang with the UFC guys. They just can't hang with them. And you have 37-year-old Patricio Pitbull who begged for his release from the PFL because the PFL is mishandling the acquisition of Bellator. He gets his release. He signs with the UFC. He gets booked against Yair Rodriguez in a sink-or-swim fight in the UFC. And he goes out there and just gets completely outclassed and had nothing to offer. I mean, what did he do notable in this fight other than complain about back of the head shots for 2 rounds that didn't even really land to the back of the head? He did nothing. And while he was an elite 45er for a long time, he's on the back end of your career. The older you get, the lower the weight class you are at, the less chance you have of longevity is just a fact. The young perpetually eat the old. And at 37 years old, going on 38 with a lot of miles on him. I mean, he's 36-8 overall. There's a lot of MMA miles on him. Where does he go from here? In a stacked featherweight division. He talks about he wants to be champion. And I've always said this, but it really showed on Saturday. He's super one-dimensional. He really primarily uses his boxing and that's it. You know, and on top of that, a lot of people, I know whenever a fighter, a high-level fighter or a decent name fighter from another organization comes in, all the UFC wannabe hardcores all of a sudden start acting like, man, this guy's elite. Man, this guy's going to work the UFC competition. Man, this guy's so good. And I feel like they don't even actually watch them fight or haven't watched them fight. They just know the name value. Same thing with Aaron Pico recently. Pitbull's lost 3 out of his last 4 now. He lost to Yair. His last win was Jeremy Kennedy. He lost in Ryzen. And he lost to Sergio Pettis. I mean, his last win, other than Jeremy Kennedy, is literally in December of 2022. So talk about out of your prime. Talk about the tail end of your career. It's a little bit too late if Pitbull ever wanted to be able to be a UFC champion. It's just not going to happen. And unfortunately, I already kind of thought that. It was further solidified at UFC 314. Next honorable mention and last honorable mention, and this might get a few people really butthurt, maybe even to unsubscribe, but I don't give a shit. But that is that Silva is an elite level featherweight, and also the Bryce Mitchell fans are the biggest weirdos in the sport. And I've broken this down countless times. We'll get to the Bryce Mitchell portion in a second. But Silva, he's talking a lot recently. He's kind of cringy, but he's kind of become a bit of a superstar, or not necessarily a superstar, but a budding superstar. If he can continue to win, he's talking about he wants to fight Volkanovski. He believes he would chin Volkanovski. He has not lost since 2018. And I understand he's not fighting the best opposition. You know, Bryce Mitchell, people acted like Bryce. Oh, Bryce is so good, man, because they like some of the edgy comments that he made. Bryce is a super low-level featherweight. Has some decent wrestling, some decent jiu-jitsu. But let's not act like Bryce was cream of the crop at featherweight. He never was. He never will be. He'll never be a title contender. People elevated him for another reason, which we're going to get to in a second. But even that being said, Bryce isn't that good. Melsik Bogdasarian isn't that good. Drew Dober isn't that good. Charles Jourdain isn't that good. And that's not to shit on those guys, because those guys are like mid-tier guys. They're mid-tier UFC guys. They're not scrubs. But what I'm trying to point out here is, look what Gene Silva did to them. I talk about this all the time. You can, give an analysis of a guy's skill set, not just based off the skill level of the guy that he fought, but also, did he treat him like that? He treated Bryce like that. He bullied Bryce. He embarrassed Bryce. He did the same thing to Melsik Bogdasarian. And it's almost like he's clowning around in there. And in this Bryce Mitchell fight, he showed excellent takedown defense. He showed excellent jiu-jitsu. He choked Bryce Mitchell out cold and barked in his face. And on top of that, he got the fans behind him. A lot of people didn't like that I was saying, oh, Gene Silva is the fan favorite here. He had the crowd barking live while he's fighting. He's looking off at the crowd, pointing at the crowd. The crowd's barking as he's walking Bryce Mitchell down like an injured gazelle, okay? Or like an injured dog squealing around on the farm, okay? Then to top it all off, it seems like once he decided he's going to finish him, he just goes out there and finishes him. And that's what he did. So Gene Silva, legit top 45er. Want to see him jumped up the rankings. I want to see some Dana White privilege, not for an undeserved title shot. I want to see some Dana White privilege. I want to see him jumped up the rankings and get a big fight in his next fight. Now, the second portion of this last honorable mention is the Bryce Mitchell, the recent surge of fans. They are the biggest weirdos I have ever seen in the entire sport. I know this is going to piss a lot of people off, but it's like, hell yeah, man, Bryce, go fishing with Hitler. Hell yeah, Bryce. Hell yeah, Bryce. You're so cool and edgy, Bryce. Hell yeah, man. You discriminate against people, man. Hell yeah. Them Jews are queering up the kids, man. Hell yeah. Listen, if you enjoy Bryce because he's an interesting character and oh man, at least he's not fake like Colby's bitch ass or a wannabe influencer like Sean Strickland, I get it. I get it to a certain extent. Bryce is an interesting character. But the fans that I am talking about is the weirdos who were acting like Bryce was elite solely because they liked that he said edgy things. The fans that acted like Bryce were going to win this fight solely because he said edgy things that they like. These fans are legitimately brain dead. And then on top of that, those same fans tried to shoehorn Bryce as some massive fan favorite when the crowd was literally chanting F you Bryce at the press conference. The crowd was literally barking on command for Gene Silva. And Gene Silva was clearly more of the fan favorite than Bryce Mitchell. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't necessarily matter. But you have a subset of fans that are like, yeah, man, Bryce is elite. Bryce is going to beat Gene Silva. Also, Bryce is a massive favorite because they like the edgy things that he says. I truly don't have a way to articulate how bizarre and weird and brain dead that is. But that truly highlights low IQ in MMA fandom. It really does. So I wanted to highlight it in this video, but I didn't want it to be a main takeaway because I've already talked about it multiple times. So let's move on to my actual list, starting off with number 3. And that is that Paddy the Baddy Pimblett is legit. He is a legit contender in the lightweight division. I've said it for a while that Paddy Pimblett is criminally underrated. And that doesn't mean that I think, oh, Paddy's the elite of the elite. Paddy's a future champion. Paddy this, Paddy that. No, people thought Paddy was so shit and that he was so horrible and that he was so trash that he was underrated, okay? I never thought, oh, Paddy's a future champion. I still don't think he's a future champion. But fans looked at him and were so dismissive of his skill set as he continues to win fight after fight. And I know Chandler isn't the greatest of wins. Me specifically, I've highlighted Chandler's been squatting on his rankings. His last win is 3 years ago against a guy who was set to headline GFL. Okay, if that doesn't tell you about Chandler. But again, to go back what I said about Gene Silva, and I've said countless times about other fighters, Paddy treated Chandler like the little bitch he is. He went out there and dominated him. He outstruck him. He tagged him on the feet. When he got taken down, he got back up. He had so much confidence in his ability to grapple with Chandler. He threw up a flying triangle in the first round. And then he proceeds after that to then dominate Chandler in the wrestling. The ground and pound was vicious. He was nonstop hunting for submissions. And you know what? Even though it only lasted 3 rounds, this was a 5-round fight. He had a crazy amount of output, specifically with the ground and pound. He didn't look tired at all. So Paddy has checked off a lot of boxes, and he's 30 years old. He's arguably entering his prime. He's getting better with every single fight. And maybe this is a hot take because I feel like people are still like, oh man, Paddy's not good. Paddy only beat Chandler, which I get it. But again, look what he did to Chandler. He embarrassed Chandler. Paddy can beat some of these top guys. I think I would pick Paddy over Justin Gaethje right now. Justin Gaethje off his back is a fish out of water. So let's stop acting like Paddy Pimblett isn't one of the top lightweight contenders because he is. Paddy, this is going to be crazy to say. And again, this isn't a prediction. This isn't endorsing a prediction. Paddy legitimately could beat Charles Oliveira tomorrow. I know it sounds crazy, boys. I know it sounds crazy. And I'm not even saying that I would pick him. But we have to start having respect for Paddy Pimblett because he proved at UFC 314, even kind of like a gatekeeper top 10 type like Michael Chandler, who's been sitting on the sidelines for ages, Paddy can absolutely dominate him. I mean, MMA math isn't everything, and this really isn't even MMA math, but you get my point. He beat Chandler worse than Charles Oliveira did. Paddy went out there and eviscerated him, embarrassed him, rearranged his face. And Paddy has elite BJJ. Chandler's impossible to submit, hard to submit. I thought Paddy was going to submit him because I thought that highly of Paddy's BJJ. Paddy's striking is evolving. Paddy, is his chin still out there to be had? Yes. But there's not a Rumble Johnson in this division, really. There isn't a Rumble Johnson. I can't wait to see what's next for Paddy. If it's a Gaethje fight, if it's an Oliveira fight, if it's a Topuria fight, if it's an Islam fight, which the UFC's given out their fair share of undeserved title shots, so that wouldn't shock me either. But man, the future is bright for Paddy Pimblett, and now he's going to be a top 10 ranked fighter. The UFC specifically gave him Chandler to give him the easiest possible top 10 win. But let's be real, man. There's not a lot of guys that are going to be knocking on the door to want to fight Paddy. Moicano's been talking about left and right. Paddy would beat the shit out of Moicano, in my opinion. Paddy's striking is way better. His kicks are nasty. His leg kicks are filthy. His head kicks are lightning fast. So Paddy is a legit contender. He's due for like a co-main event of a pay-per-view in his next fight as well. He beat the dog shit out of Chandler. And we have to give Paddy Pimblett the respect that he deserves. Next on my list of takeaways, number 2. And that is that Michael Chandler's career is over. And we're going to give him a new nickname. His new nickname is Dirty Mike. Dirty Mike's career is over. I'll put the clip in here. He literally kicked Paddy Pimblett square in the groin midway through round 2 because he was exhausted. He was looking up at the clock at the end of round 1 because he was exhausted. In between round 2 and 3, his corner specifically spilled water on the ground to buy Chandler time. Don't believe me? Go back and look. In between rounds 2 and 3, in that break, they spilled water to give Chandler an extra bit of time to wait because he was completely gassed out. And Chandler has been riding the coattails of losing to elite opposition for years. While, essentially claiming, man, I'm one of the best in the world, man. Poirier finished me. Gaethje couldn't finish me, though. Oliveira finished me, but he didn't finish me the second time around, man. I've been fighting the best guys in the world. Well, guess what? You finally had to do with what a lot of other guys in the lightweight division have had to do over the last couple of years, which was defend your ranking, and you got absolutely smoked. The young perpetually eats the old. And you know what didn't help Chandler? I wonder who could have guessed this. Sitting out for over 2 years, sucking off Conor McGregor in every interview, sometimes in a hot tub interview, or not a hot tub interview, a sauna interview. At 37, I believe is when he started waiting roughly around there. Late 30s was probably not a good idea. At some point, you're going to have a massive fall off. Your speed is going to decline. Your reaction time is going to decline. Your cardio is going to decline. He sat out at the tail end of his potential prime, and he regressed for 2 years while he sat around in the media gobbling up Conor like it was his job, like he was being paid to do so. And now he finally has to defend that ranking that he squatted on for years. And Paddy absolutely wrecks him. You tell me where Chandler goes from here. Who does he beat? He's not beating Moicano. Moicano is towards the end of the division. Yo Alvarez isn't even ranked. Fairs DM isn't even ranked. Both those guys absolutely smash him. Ignacio Bahamondes, tail end of the top 15, absolutely wrecks him. There's probably countless other guys. I mean, Gene Silva from 45, who's not even ranked, would wreck Michael Chandler. I'm assuming he'll be ranked now. So I can name a handful of guys who aren't even ranked, who I am confident would absolutely smoke Chandler. You combine that with the fact he sat out for 2 years, not collecting paychecks, not getting in the octagon, getting some ring rust. He comes back to get dominated by Charles Oliveira, jumping while Charles Oliveira's on your back to the applaud of Kid Rock and Elon Musk. Doesn't give you any bonus points. Then you finally have to defend that ranking against a young, hungry up-and-comer like Paddy Pimblett, and he smokes you. Where does he go from here? I hope he has all those businesses that he sat out, conjuring up while he was sitting on the sidelines listening to Creed and Sasquatch. Hopefully they're paying well, because he's never getting the red panty night. He shouldn't even be ranked in the top 15. People are finally starting to come around to realizing that Michael Chandler isn't good. And then this is still another fight where he cheats. Dirty Mike will do Dirty Mike things. Dirty Mike will kick you in the groin. Dirty Mike will have his corner spill ice and water all over the cage so you can buy some time for your stamina. This guy is a habitual cheater. This guy is a fake nice guy. This guy is an absolute scrub who doesn't belong in the top 15. Get him out the top 15. Where were those Jefferson County Javelins? I didn't see him on Saturday night. Okay? So, Dirty Mike's career is over. The nail is in the coffin. Go to GFL. Go to PFL. Go to Bellator. Go to whatever organization pops up tomorrow. He does not belong in the UFC. Patricio Pitbull at 45 has slumped out Michael Chandler before. I think he would slump him out again. I think that's the most... probably the fight that makes the most sense. Rebook them, the Bellator alums. Let them fight each other in a rematch. But yeah, Dirty Mike's career is completely over after UFC 314. Last honorable mention and my number one takeaway from UFC 314. I don't think a lot of people are going to like to hear this. I talked about it a little bit in my post-fight. But Alexander Volkanovski is no longer in his prime. I feel like the narrative for Volkanovski is so hard to really truly articulate, but essentially what you have is you have a dominant loss to Islam Makhachev in the original fight. I believe it was 284 where he got decisioned, and people acted like Volkanovski, man, he won that fight. He was robbed, brother, when he clearly lost. He clearly lost that fight, okay? But he overachieved. The hype at that point was Volkanovski's unbeatable. He beat Islam, the lightweight king, and one of the greatest lightweights. And even if you didn't think he beat him, he did really well. Then he goes out there and wrecks Yair Rodriguez, the interim champion, who won that interim belt on the same card. And people are like, man, Volkanovski, man, he's so good, man. And he is good. He is good. He's the GOAT of featherweight, in my opinion. But then he steps in on short notice, gets KO'd by Islam via head kick. Then he gets slumped by Ilia Topuria. Then he sits out for a while. Topuria relinquishes the belt, moves up to lightweight, and you get Volkanovski versus Lopes for the vacant featherweight title. He wins this fight. He outclassed Diego Lopes, but I just think he's done, man. It's not like he's some scrub. It's not like he's horrible, but you can see it's not him anymore. I tell you guys, I've been saying it for years, and you guys probably are tired of hearing me say this. Like this, it happens. You have to appreciate these guys when they're in this special moment in time. Volkanovski, Max Holloway 3, special moment in time. Volkanovski versus Islam 1, special moment in time. Volkanovski versus Yair, special moment in time. I feel like now the narrative is that Volkanovski beat Lopes. Man, Volkanovski beat Lopes. He outclassed him. He's back, man. He's in his prime. I didn't see prime Volkanovski on Saturday. He looked very, very good. It was a good, feel-good story. But Diego Lopes, I think he's a benefactor of Dana White privilege. I don't think he's that good. He got a participation trophy for getting dominated by a short-notice Movsar Evilweb. And I feel like the older Volkanovski gets, the more we're going to see him slow down. I mean, it's a tale as old as time. I'm saying it forever. The young perpetually eat the old. And while I don't believe Lopes is that good, he had moments in this fight. He had moments. I mean, he hurt Volkanovski in the second round. He wasn't like brutally hurt and rocked. But Lopes, I feel like Lopes is a guy that Volkanovski should have had a Max Holloway 3 or better performance against. I feel like You take the Volkanovski, you snatch him, you pluck him out of that Max Holloway performance, you pluck him out of that first Islam fight. He is wrecking Diego Lopes and finishing him in the second or third round. There's going to be no moments. There's going to be no black eyes on Volk. Volk has slowed down. The movement isn't as good as it once was. The striking is still very good, but I'm telling you, let's say he sits out for 6 months. I know he's talking about a quick turnaround, but let's say he sits out for 6 months and comes back. He's only going to be another 6 months older. He's going to be fighting a young, hungry up-and-comer, most likely. I think Movsar, the more I think about it, I was leaning Volkanovski. The more I think about it, I could see Movsar going out there and finishing Volkanovski. I know you guys are going to call me crazy. Oh, dude, you just like anybody from the Caucasus, bro. Movsar is much better than he gets credit for, and I'm telling you, Volkanovski is starting to have his fall off. Is he still elite? Yes. But I want to see him go out on top. I don't want to see him face down, ass up, doggy style, getting slumped out by a Movsar Evloev or a Yair Rodriguez or a Gene Silva, who's now calling for a title shot, might get an undeserved title shot. You never know. I just really do believe now is the time for Volkanovski to retire because he's no longer in his prime. And also, I'll add to this takeaway, and I've kind of already alluded to it. Diego Lopes is an industry plant, man. All he does is throw powerful winging hooks, and he has some decent jiu-jitsu. Like, people got to stop acting like beating Pat Sabatini, man. He beat Pat Sabatini, man. He's so elite. He beat Dan Ige. He's so elite. He beat Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega's a scrub. Brian Ortega, what, has the win over Yair? And what's his last win? Let me actually look, see if I can see this. What's Brian Ortega's last win before Yair? I'm done. His last win is Chan Sung Jung. And we're going to act like Brian Ortega is such a great win. Brian Ortega's time has passed too. He's a scrub. Okay, a bit of an exaggeration, but you get my point. So we're going to give him a title shot because he beat Dan Ige and Brian Ortega and Sadiq Yusuf and Pat Sabatini. Meanwhile, he got absolutely dominated by Movsar Evloev. And that's kind of what led me to the takeaway about Alexander Volkanovski because, again, the Volkanovski from years ago would have absolutely smoked Diego Lopes. And the fact that he's even eaten some of those sloppy, wild-winging shots that Lopes is throwing shows me that that isn't prime Volk anymore, which we kind of already knew. Suffering from back-to-back KOs. It's just one of those things, man. The young perpetually eat the old. And he squeaked by on this one. And I know I say squeak by, but he actually won and put on a masterclass. But he got by Diego Lopes. I don't know if he's going to be that lucky with another fight or another fight after that. It only can last for so... Somebody's going to get you. And I just rather see Volkanovski leave out on top. The feel-good story. Instead of now everyone's like, man, Volkanovski's back, bro. He's back. He's the champion. This ain't the same This ain't the same as the first reign. I promise you. I promise you this isn't the same as the first reign. So that's my number one takeaway. Alexander Volkanovski has left his prime. Diego Lopes, complete industry plant. Volkanovski should have beat him even worse than he did, even though I scored at 5-0 for Volkanovski. And I'll throw this little bonus takeaway in there. Paddy Pimblett absolutely humiliated Colby Covington. They had their little backstage presser beef. Then Paddy went on to discuss it at the post-fight press conference. I'm going to make a whole video on it. But man, Colby's getting desperate. He's getting so desperate. As soon as that video is done, I'll link it down in the description as well as the end cards if you guys want to go check it out. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Is there any takeaways I should have had on this list that I didn't? I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.